Hello, everyone, and happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day. Welcome to another Sunday afternoon chat. I hear the four-wheeler. I hear Chris running around out there with her on the tracker, the tracker up there looking. She's looking for Lucy, exactly what she's doing. Start this Father's Day off. We have a report. It's a non-report from Lucy. Lucy still has no baby fawn that we know of. We found Milburn when we got home from church. He came up on the porch looking for something to eat, like a guy would on Father's Day. Hope a lot of y'all got taken out to lunch today. Chris took me to, no, not the great Japanese steakhouse. She took me to, no, not Outback. She took me to Brahms. I had me a Brahms. Oh, yeah. I'm going to have some stuffed Louisiana chicken tonight that a friend of mine sent me some stuffed Louisiana chicken and some boudin. That's what we're having tonight. But Lucy still does not have a baby. You know, this is Father's Day, which is June, what is it, June 21. And we had a set of twins born here on the ranch last year, July 3rd. So it's certainly not too late to have babies. And Lucy had some encounters during about 3 different times of the rut. And I don't know exactly how it is. I know it's 201 days from the time that she's out there been fooling around. But we had, during Ever's full moon situation, she came into season there. And but I think she just was a pretty bashful girl, and she just held them off by getting up on the front deck and sitting there watching while they all messed around in the yard and fought with each other and did all of that. And so I think it might have been clear into the last part of the rut, the third time before somebody ever got lucky with Lucy. Got lucky with Lucy. But I don't know really what happened, but she just keeps getting fatter all the time, and she still does not have a baby, and here it is, June 21. So we're absolutely pretty much positive. Obviously, we get a stethoscope and check. We could have the vet check her, but she's either going to have a baby or she's not. So we're still expecting her to have one. But oh, by the way, don't run off for the end of today's Sunday afternoon chat, because I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Father's Day. I've been a father for a long time, so I know a little bit about Father's Day. And but I want to share with you what I've been doing this week, because we had a great situation before we get into talking about Father's Day. Chris is out looking for Lucy right now on the tracker side by side. So, you know, hopefully she'll find Lucy, and Lucy may be out there having a baby somewhere right now. We was hoping she would have one up really close to the house, so we could capture a little bit of it and share it with you. But we'll see what happens there. But this week we had a great time. We got to go fish what I believe, after fishing it, is maybe, and I was told this ahead of time, that this might be the best big bass lake in the United States. The best big bass lake in the United States. And it's called Camelot Bell. It's down northeast of Waco, a little town of Coolidge, Texas, where they have great barbecue. They got a great barbecue place there, Mookie's. Mookie's Barbecue. I ate at Mookie's, and I'm telling you what, I'm giving it my 100% endorsement. Mookie's, the ribs were fantastic. The ribs, I love great ribs anyway. Mookie's Barbecue. And Mookie's a big guy. I got to meet Mookie. When you see a big guy that cooks, you know he knows what he's doing. And Mookie's a good one, I'll guarantee you. Told me he'd been watching, him and his daddy watched Jimmy Houston Outdoors all of their life on television. By the way, we're still on too. We're on the Discovery Channel, CBS Sports, Pursuit, WFN, Heartland Network, Walk TV, My Family TV, about 12 or 14 different networks right now. So we also show a Jimmy Houston Outdoors show here every single Monday night, the 2020 shows. After we get through running the 26 new 2020 television shows, probably going to end up doing maybe doing some look back shows, pick a few out that we really like and show the whole shows. We show a little look back segment every week, and people seem to like that. So we'll go back and some of the fun stuff we did years ago. I know a lot of you watched Jimmy Houston Outdoors for 40 some odd years, 43 years we've been doing this television show. We have great shows for next year. But anyway, we got to fish Camelot Bell and another lake they've got there called Wolfpack. And let me tell you, but the first bass that I caught out of Camelot Bell, I was fishing from the bank. The evening I got there, I just run around and fished off the bank 4 or 5 places with Mike Frazier, the guy that owns the place. And he's trying to grow a Texas state record bass, maybe a world record bass. That's what he's trying to grow there. And but I caught one that weighed 11 1/4, 11 pounds and 4 ounces. Caught another one that evening that weighed 7 pounds, fishing from the bank. You can catch giant bass from the bank. You just got to be throwing it in the right water in order to do that. But anyway, we had a great time. I fished with a couple of really good friends of mine, Larry Walker, who's a great bass fisherman, writing a book right now called From Minnows to Marlins. Caught just about all kinds of the great big fish all over the world, freshwater, saltwater, both. He's a great bass fisherman, loves to freshwater fish. And the minnow part of it, they had Walker Sporting Goods in Dallas. All they're down in that area know that. I did an appearance there years ago when I was just a puppy, and they've had great. They got a marina out on Joe Pool Lake right now, and just a great guy, great friend, been a friend for a long, long time. And fished with him one day, and he caught. Well, I just won't tell you. You'll just have to watch. We'll have some YouTube videos up on it, but we did catch some really, really big bass. And didn't catch any state record. I never did catch another bass over 10 pounds. As a matter of fact, I caught some just really, really close to 10 pounds. But fished the second day with Jim Bob Basham, and we didn't catch tons and tons of fish. I think Larry and I caught about 20 or 25. Jim Bob and I caught a dozen. And but we had some really, really big fish. Really, I mean, giant fish. It's probably the best place in the world to have a chance to catch a bass over 10 pounds. Probably the best place in the world to have a chance to catch one over 11 or over 12 or over 13 or over 14. And let me tell you, you're getting the high rent district when you get over 10 pounds with a bass. To get from 10 to that 11 pound mark is really difficult. To go from an 11 to a 12 pound bass is just all but impossible. To go from 12 to 13 I've caught one bass in my life over 13 pounds. One bass over 13 pounds. And I was sure hoping to do it down there. I'm going to be going back and fishing Camelot Bell and the Wolfpack in the future, and probably go back down there this fall. Keep in mind that we're fishing in the middle of June. The middle of June, 95 degrees, 83 degrees water temp, and catching 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 pound bass. Just think about that. Think about it for a second. I've heard it said that a bass will be 1 to 3 pounds larger if you catch it before it spawns. So the 11 1/4 that I caught could have been 12, 13, 14 1/4 pounds if I'd have caught that bass before she spawned. Without going into a whole lot of details, because you'll be able to watch the videos here pretty soon. We're shooting for next year's television shows. We will have complete TV shows on those two fishing days for 2021, but you will have some YouTube videos on them coming up here pretty soon. We got Richard Gene, the Fishing Machine videos coming up here pretty soon too. We're shooting a lot of videos. You know, we shoot tons of videos. You know that. So we got a lot on our plate right now, and we're getting out the new Jimmy Houston Adventure shows, which has got a lot of hunting involved. So those of you that like to hunt, be sure to go to the Pursuit Channel. That's where most of those will be on. The Pursuit Channel, Heartland Network, AT&T Sports Southwest, WFN, World Fishing Network. I don't know. I don't guess they handle the hunting stuff, but they'll still have fishing stuff on there. CBS, NBC Sports Chicago, My Family Television, Walk TV, Action Channel, lots and lots of channels. I probably left several of them out. But the Pursuit Channel, we're on there twice a week with the new Jimmy Houston Adventure show. It's got a lot of hunting on there. That begins in July. Begins just right around the corner. Just right around the corner. But what a great time we had down there fishing at Camelot Bell. You want to see what Camelot Bell's like, just go to CamelotBell.com and just take a look at hundreds and hundreds of pictures of big bass. Keep in mind, these lakes are only like 30 or 40 acres apiece, but it is just absolutely, absolutely amazing. This is Father's Day, so we got to talk about fathers. And, you know, y'all have heard me, and I don't want to talk to the father specifically here in just a minute, but let me just talk about my dad for just a second. Y'all have heard me mention many, many things that my dad said and taught me throughout my lifetime. My dad died January 18th, 1990. That's 30 years ago. It, to me, seems like it was yesterday. I've missed him every day for 30 years. He was a great, great friend in addition to being my dad, my father. And, you know, and one of these days I'll be able to shake his hand, hug his neck again in heaven. I know that. My dad was a deacon in a Baptist church, but he was maybe the smartest man I've ever known. I didn't know how smart he was when I was a teenager, obviously, or when I was in college, obviously. By the time I got to college, I got to thinking, this cat's pretty sharp. My dad had a 7th grade education. a 7th grade education. He quit school after the 7th grade. Fortunately, he made it to the 7th grade before he quit, so he could read and write. He knew how to do that. You know, and back those days in school, they taught you how to read and write so much better than they do nowadays. But he could read and write. He quit school in order to help his family pay the bills, in order to be able to help feed the family. You know, he was 7th grade, and he quit. But my dad, with a 7th grade education, he went to the Air Force, and he got out of the Air Force, started driving a taxi cab. He started selling cookies on a cookie truck. I don't even know if they deliver trucks by cookies anymore at the grocery stores, but he drove one of those little vans around. We see them today, like Fritos Lay trucks. We see them in the bread trucks when they deliver the bread, because they bring them to these stores every day fresh, you know, and they can't use all the other means they do to deliver groceries nowadays. But my dad drove a cookie truck, and he delivered cookies and pickles and a few other food for a company called L.D. Jones Food Company. It's a big wholesale food company. Dad called on hundreds of little mom and pop grocery stores, and he drove that truck and sold those cookies. And he started that job, and he did really well at it. I mean, he was a great cookie salesman. And I remember during the summer times that I got to go with my dad and ride the cookie truck, and that was a really big deal for me, basically because I got to be with my dad all the time. And you know, I heard in so many of the things that he told me, like I've shared some of this with y'all over the years, is you know, my dad told me, never complain. Don't complain to anybody. And I said, why? I've got problems, I want to complain. And he said, because half the people you complain to don't care, and the other half are kind of glad you got a problem. So he said, you're just giving them some satisfaction by complaining that you have a problem, because that makes them feel good that you have a problem, and that's not how you want to make people feel good. But I could go on and on. I got it's kind of like my little rules of thumb in fishing. So much of things that I have in life came from my dad and what he taught me. You know, when I was growing up, you know, but he went from that cookie salesman, working up the ladder at that wholesale food company, to working in an office with a 7th grade education, working in an office. He worked his way up in that office until he was the general manager of that office, the only one man that he had to answer to in that company, and that was L.D. Jones himself. And L.D. Jones got sick, and when he did, Dad then became effectively what we would call nowadays the CEO of that company, or president of that company. And I don't know that if he had the title of the CEO or not. You know, I was in high school when my dad, at age, I guess it would have been, I guess he was like 39 years old. I was a senior in high school, so that would have put him probably about 39 years old. My dad walked into L.D. Jones Food Company as the guy that ran the company, and told L.D. Jones that I'm quitting. I'm going to buy a resort on Lake Tenkiller at age 39 years old. And obviously that was probably one of the most important things that ever happened in my life. That changed my life dramatically, and it changed it forever, because I went from living in Oklahoma City, or basically Moore, Oklahoma, same school that my buddy Toby Keith went to, and saw Toby on television on Fox this morning talking about, he was the Power Player of the Week. And I remember they had a segment on there. He was talking about, he caught some flack from a lot of people because he went and played at the president's inaugural 3.5 years ago or 4 years ago, President Trump's inaugural. And he said, hey, he said, I'd go play for any president. It's an honor to get to go. And I've said, I've told people, you know, I said, I'd go to the White House and visit any president. I've got to personally meet every president from Jimmy Carter up to Donald Trump, with the exception of Barack Obama. And if Barack Obama invited me to go to the White House and meet him, I'd have been there in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. I think it's such an honor to get to go meet the President of the United States. If you're an American, and if you're proud of this country, if you're ashamed of this country like some people are, probably don't want to meet the president. But if you're proud of this country like I am, you ought to go meet the president anytime you get a chance. And I feel so blessed and so honored. I've got to fish with some of those guys. You know, fortunately, we've had a lot of presidents that love to fish. I've got to fish with some of them. But anyway, my dad, you know, left a successful middle-class career of being the head of a big wholesale food company that sold grocery stores all over the central part of Oklahoma. He started as a cookie salesman and went to the head of the company, the president, CEO of the company. And yet he quit that job to buy a place on the lake and by a resort on the lake. And Mom had a great job also. She worked as an office worker for a big grocery store, and it's kind of why I have a grocery store on Lake Tenkiller. I kind of grew up in the grocery business, and but God wanted me fishing, I guess, instead of selling groceries. And now I'm a good customer for the grocery stores. But my dad taught me so much, and I remember so much of what he said and did, and the way he acted, the way he handled things, his integrity, his deal of going to church every time the church doors open, his deal of making sure his kids grew to the church. I remember the times when I would mess up and do things wrong, and he would punish me severely. I mean, we had a peach tree out behind our house, and if I really messed up badly, I'd have to go out and break a limb off that peach tree, and I'd get whipped with that limb. And I'd usually start with a little bitty one, and Dad'd make me go out and get a bigger one. And he disciplined me all the way up to I was 16, 17, 18 years old. And when I got to that age, he disciplined me like a man, and not like a kid. But he made me what I am today with God's help, and he put God in me. He's the one that carried me to church. I mentioned getting saved at 12 years old, and I did that because my dad carried me to church. I wouldn't have been at church at 12 years old for any other reason than my dad carried me there. So fathers are so important in this world, and I just want to pay tribute to mine. I can't hardly talk about my dad without getting really, really emotional, because he was a special man. And he was special because I was special to him. And that's what I want to share with you fathers out there right now. You've got to be special to your kids. You've got to be special to your kids because they are watching and listening to everything that you do. They are going to be the same kind of individual that you are. And you want your sons to grow up to be great men. You want your son to grow up to be a great man of God. You want your son to grow up to have integrity, to have honesty, to treat people right, to treat people with respect, to treat people with love. You've got to show them that. You can't tell them that. You don't even have to tell them that. You show them that, and they're going to grow up to be that kind of people. You want your daughter to grow up and marry a man just like you, because that's what she's going to do. And let me tell you, if you're a bum, if you're lazy, if you call in sick for work when you're not sick, if you cheat on your taxes, if you cheat on your wife, if you lie to your boss, if you lie to your neighbors, if you lie to your kids, they're going to grow up and be just the exact same kind of kid. A guy told me one time, he said, Jimmy, he said, if you got beer in your icebox, y'all don't know what an icebox is. If you got beer in your refrigerator, if you have beer in your refrigerator, don't be surprised when you get that phone call that says that your teenage son or daughter was involved in a car wreck and alcohol was involved. Don't be surprised, Jimmy, when you get that call, because you will if you have beer in your icebox. That's exactly what will happen. And I can remember one time, and I probably shouldn't even tell this story, it's going a little long, but I remember one time sitting in the most fierce lightning storm you ever saw at Toledo Bend Lake, getting ready to take off for a BASS tournament. And my partner that I'd drawn for that day, and we drew actual partners for that day where you both could fish in the front of the boat and you split water and stuff. But I drew this partner of the day, and somehow we got talking about drinking while we were in this rain delay. I actually ended up canceling the day. I didn't even end up going that day. And I was way up high in the money. And since they canceled that day, I had to work the next day. I was just going to simply get my check for whatever I was and go on. I had to leave the next day and go work. I wasn't going to fish that day. And no matter where I was in the tournament, I was just going to take a zero for that day and go on. But that was the cut day. But it turned out they canceled a day. I zeroed that day, and I fell from way high in the money to not even getting a check, obviously. But I went and did my obligation, which is also sort of things that I learned from my dad. I made that commitment to go be somewhere that day. I was going to be there. It didn't matter if they put a tournament on that day. But we somehow got to talking about drinking beer. And the guy told me, he said, well, I tell you what I do on my, I let my teenage kids drink beer at home with me. When my wife and I have beers, I'll let them have a beer. And maybe that back then, maybe that was legal. I don't think it's even legal now to let your teenage son or daughter have a beer at home. I don't think it's legal. But anyway, maybe it was back then. I don't know. But we got in a big argument about that, and I told him, I said, well, I just don't think it's right. And I don't think it's right that you're drinking beer in front of them, or that you, again, the deal, if you got a beer in your icebox, what's going to happen? He said, well, I'd rather have them drinking with me than out slipping around drinking behind their back. But they're going to do whatever you do. They're going to grow up like you. So just remember that. And The other thing that I want to tell you fathers, and particularly you young fathers, when you make your kids special to you, they're going to be special. You're going to be special to them. You're going to be special to them in so many ways. And as years go by, and you become a father. I became a father as a teenager. Chris and I got married at teenagers. We were kids, and we had a kid. We didn't know how to raise kids, but we actually ended up, and it was 6 years later before Jamie came along. But actually ended up with kids that are good Christian men and women today. And they've got good Christian kids and grandkids of their own. We've got good Christian great-grandkids now. And it all started with my mom and dad and when it was with Chris's. I mean, that's what it actually started with. And it just continues, and it grows and it grows and it grows. We've actually got another son, Richard, that is not actually a biological son, but we've raised him ever since he was 3 weeks old. He's worked in the company, and he's a good Christian young man too. They're not any of them young, but they're younger than me. I still call them young. They're still kids to me. But he turned into a fine Christian man also, and we did the same thing. We drug him to church just like we drug our kids to church. But young fathers out there, your kids are going to do what you do. Your kids are going to grow up to be just like you. Your daughter is going to grow up to want to marry a man just like you. And if you're a lousy father, if you're a lousy husband, if you're not treating your wife and your kids the way you're supposed to, that's the kind of guy she's going to end up with. She might not even want to end up with the kind of man, but that's the kind of man she's going to be attracted with. I mentioned before with my daughter Sherry talking about Jack. She told her mama, she said, he's the first man that's ever treated me as good as my daddy did. Think about that for a minute. You young fathers out there, that's the kind of father you want to be. You want your daughter looking for a man that will treat her as good as you did. That's exactly what you want to do. They're going to talk the way you talk. They're going to walk the way you walk. They're going to teach them integrity, teach them respect, teach them honesty, teach them truthfulness, teach them godliness, teach them godliness. There is nothing better in the world that God ever created above a godly man. A godly man. A man's got to be the spiritual leader in the family. He's got to be the financial leader. He's got to be the family leader, period. That's the way God created us. And you got to do it, guys. You can't just shirk that responsibility off and say, and today it's true, in today's society, a lot of women make more money than their husband. That doesn't matter. You still got to be the leader of that family. You've got to lead your family. You've got to show your family how to live close to God, how to have integrity, how to have respect. Teach your kids respect and discipline your kids. It's the last thing I want to talk about here. Discipline your kids. You know, I don't even know if you're allowed to give a kid a whipping anymore. Don't even know if it's allowed. Maybe that's the reason we have a bunch of these idiots running around the streets burning down businesses and stuff, because maybe they never got a spanking when they were a kid. I got lots of whippings, and I think it's the greatest thing in the world probably my dad ever done for me. Didn't think so at the time, didn't like it a bit. But my dad taught me respect. He taught me how to be honest. He taught me how to have integrity. He taught me how to live under the rules and regulations that God set for mankind. That's the kind of father I had. That's the kind of father you want to be to your kids. And because let me tell you, the babies keep coming. Whether you have one or two or three or four, Pat Turner, the guy that runs runs my production company, he's got 4 kids. A lot of times he used to claim to be about half Baptist and half Catholic. After his wife called him, was out on the road filming, and said she was pregnant with their 4th child. I told him, I said, that Baptist part better start kicking in right about now. You've used up about all that Catholic you need. But but he's raised all those kids in church, sent them to a Catholic private school. They've all turned out to be great young men and women. And they are now raising kids of their own that are going to, again, be great young men and women. Men, fathers, you have the toughest, most responsible, most important job in the world. They say President of the United States is the most important job in the world. President Trump, President Bush, President Obama, President Carter, on and on and on. Those guys already had the most important job in the world before they were elected president. They were dad. They were father. That's the most important job in the world, guys. Take it responsibly every single day and realize if that little boy or girl in your house is 3 years old or 2 years old or 20 years old or 30 years old or 40 years old, they're still looking at you. They're still looking at you. My kids are grown, got kids and grandkids of their own, but they still look at Dad. What's Dad doing? What's Dad think about this? And when they get into situations, that's what's running through their mind. How would Dad handle this? And I tell you, you want them to handle it with integrity, with honesty, with truthfulness, and respect. Just think of how this world might have been different just in the last month if a lot of kids running around burning and looting and stealing had respect for other people. And most of those kids that was running around doing that never had a whipping in their life. They never had a dad go out and get a peach tree limb off of there. They never had a mom tell them, well, your daddy gets home and he finds out what you've done. And you just knew that when Daddy got home, you was fixing to get your butt busted. Yeah, that's right. That's exactly what's going to happen. And let me tell you, it hurt. I know it hurt him too. It hurt my bottom a lot more than it hurt his hand. Or a belt. My dad used a belt. And I know you can't do that nowadays. The law, the liberal law, has decided that they would rather have anarchy in the street than grow up adults with respect for other adults. But can I tell you, my belief is that there is more love in this world than there is hate. A lot of hate. A lot of hate. One of my great subscribers that I visit with all the time said, Jimmy, don't use that word hate. Use dislike or something, but there's a lot of hate. But there's more love out there. Love will overcome fear. Love will overcome the hate. And love's going to win out in this end. Love's going to win and keep the United States of America. A lot of people trying to tear it down. A lot of people with fake outrage in the street, and that's what it is mostly. It's fake outrage. They're just using it. They're using it. They don't care about somebody getting killed by a policeman, really. If they cared, they'd care about the millions of babies that are killed by abortionists every year, by their own mother. They'd care about all the people who are killed in the cities every single night. They'd care about all the people that die from a heart attack because we eat too much, or they smoke too much, or they're 100 pounds overweight, or all the things. They don't really, that's fake outrage. And we understand that, and we know that. And we know that a lot of them hate. But can I tell you, love is going to win the battle in the end. You teach your kids to love. You know how you do that? That's right, you love them. That's how you teach them to love. You teach them to respect. How you do that? You respect them. You teach them that they're special. Not only will they know that you're special, they will start treating others as special. And you know, if we just treated everyone we met as special, what a wonderful world we live in. Guys and girls, go out there and have you a great week this week. I love you. We got some great videos coming up. Subscribe to the Jimmy Houston Outdoors channel. Subscribe to the Catch of the Day channel. Still only got about 3,000 people on that Catch of the Day. And we get so many comments on there like, Jimmy, you're changing my life. I'm not changing anybody's life, but I'm using God's words and what God tells me to say to help change people's life. And let me tell you, we all need our life to be changed. We all need our life to be changed. None of it's perfect, but we're all trying to get there. And we're trying to be better moms and dads, brothers, sisters, sons, daughters, friends. We're all trying to do that. If we're not trying to do that, something's wrong with you for sure. Guys and girls, help you out there and have you a great week this week. I hope you catch 11 1/4 pound bass. And remember, I love you.